Hi, welcome to another edition of Joe's Technology. I'm Joe. Often I work with virtual machines, and I was asked about that recently by a friend of mine, saying, how do you get all these things running on just one computer? Multiple operating systems, trying out different configurations. That way, you can see how they're going to work before you commit the changes. Well, in the old days, you used to, or at least I did, I would set up a computer and it would take hours and I'd get everything set up and just the way I want it, and something new would come out and I would try it out, and sometimes it turns out to be something bad. And now the computer's hosed. And now I spend hours setting it back up again before I get to try something new. And that's where virtual machines come in handy. Now this is Oracle VirtualBox. It was originally developed by Sun. Sun got bought out by Oracle, so now they call it Oracle VirtualBox. Now, I used to be a large VMware Workstation user. In fact, I've been using it since version 1. The only downside about VMware Workstation is it's not free. So every time I bought a new version, a couple $100 or whatever the current upgrade fee is. I think right now, if you buy it brand new, last time I checked, I think it was $250. Whereas you can download this for nothing and be running virtual machines in no time. Now, granted, they probably have a few extra features. If you're curious, what VMware offers is that they have these big products like vSphere that run the big commercial IT centers, and so their impetus to get people to buy VMware Workstation is to say, well, if you build something in VMware Workstation, once you've built it and you have it the way you want it, you can push it into production. Well, great. I'm here at my house, so I don't have vSphere and I don't have a farm, so I just want to virtualize on my desktop and try out different Linux distributions or Windows distributions or Windows Server OSs. So for me, a free little virtualization station like VirtualBox is just fine. So as you can see, I've tried out several here in the past, and in fact here I'll try out a new one and I'll show you how easy it is to get started. Here, I'll call this one Snow Linux. I've heard a lot of good things about Snow Linux, and it asks me what type it is. Well, as you can see by default, since I install mostly Linux, it's saying, oh, it's probably Linux, and probably something around the 2.6. Well, in this case, Snow Linux is based off of Debian. So I'll just go ahead and look for Debian, and we'll just say it's Debian, because specifically Snow Linux isn't listed. There are just so many Linux distributions that they only list the ones that are most familiar to the greater community. And I like to give mine a generous amount of memory, so here we'll give it 8 gigs of RAM. Let's see. Oh yes, we'll go ahead and create our. We need to have a virtual hard drive. I'll allow it to be the default, which is the VirtualBox disk image. If I was importing something from, say, VMware Workstation, that's where I'd use VMDK, and there are several other features available too. Dynamically allocated. This means that I'm not actually blocking off the space for the hard disk that I create. It's actually just telling the system that it has that much space reserved. But the hard disk file will only be as large as the amount of data that's stored into it. Now, if I say fixed size and I say pick a 50 gigabyte disk image, 50 gigs of my hard drive are about to disappear into the VM. Whereas here, I can just tell the VM you have 50 gigs, and if it only writes 14 gigs, then that's all that gets taken up by my file. So I definitely want to use the virtual. Dynamically allocated. So here, I'll give it 50 gigs. That way there's plenty of room to grow no matter what I want to do. Now that I have my virtual machine defined, there are a couple little housekeeping settings that I like to do, and this is just me. For example, this mini toolbar, to heck with that. I don't really use that. The base memory is fine, however I don't really use a floppy. For processors, I like to give it more virtual processors so that things work a little bit faster. By default, I have my hardware virtualization. Now, this is normally not checked. You'll probably have to enable this in your BIOS. Many times you'll get a computer where the virtualization option is not checked by default in the BIOS, and it needs to be enabled before Oracle VirtualBox will be able to take care of it. And it'll prompt you. There's a message that pops up, not available, blah, blah, blah. I've already taken care of it, and so by default it's checked, since normally I use those. We need to give it a little bit of video memory. In this case, I'll give it 64 megs of video memory. I'll enable 3D acceleration. This is important since we're going to be running Cinnamon with this version of Linux. For my CD, I'm actually going to be using a disk image. So here, I'll look through here. Here are all my different disk images that I have available. As you can see, I've been trying out a few lately. Snow Linux. Here we go. And that's a live CD. Audio is fine. That's integrated. Network address translation is fine. Serial ports I don't care about. Everything should be good. So now we're ready to fire it up. And then here, I'll just switch to full screen. And here we are, a new Linux OS ready to boot up on our Windows desktop. I'm demonstrating this on Windows 7 since I'm guessing that most users are probably on a Windows 7 environment and have been curious at trying this out. This will work with Windows 8 too, by the way, or at least I think it will. I don't have any Windows 8 machines because I just refuse to buy that trash. So I assume that VirtualBox hopefully does work on Windows 8. Okay, here's where Cinnamon says, hey, you're running in software rendering mode. Yeah, that's fine. Who cares? So I just click that and it goes away. Great. Now I have a new version of Linux here to try out. Snow Linux is supposed to actually have a better implementation in terms of being faster and peppier running Cinnamon than even Linux Mint, which basically created it. So here, just to show that we're really on the internet, let's see if they've heard of me. Whoops. Hey, that's not me. Some Joe... Well, don't go to that guy's site. This is me. There we go. Oh, as you can see, I play a lot of MMOs, so you've got all kinds of silly things on my pages. Okay, so, yeah, if you want to find a good website, as you can see, I like gamer girls that video game naked. What can I say? Everybody does. So if you're looking for... Oh, and as you can see, I post all my latest videos here. Always drop by Joe's Technology. So as you can see, we have a virtual machine up and running. It's able to connect to the internet, and I can sit here and try out my heart's content this new version of Linux without installing anything to my desktop. And I'm still running everything off of my regular Windows machine. So that way I can try it out. And if I decide that this just isn't for me, that's fine. Then I can just shut it off and go back to the regular environment. That's the benefit of VirtualBox.